Hey everybody, it is Gary with Shatterproof, the AutoGlass podcast, coming to you live from beautiful Las Vegas out the window. Today we are joined by George Weller up in Minnesota with Zenith AutoGlass, and to my left is Mark O'Brien with Sika Corporation. So hello everybody. George, hello.
Hello, George.
Look at that.
Hello,
we got the pea shooter coming at us today. Hey, so everybody, we are coming to you with a special edition. It's kind of everybody's clamoring with the State Farm announcement and what the IGA has recently done as far as filing a formal complaint with the Federal Trade Commission over antitrust concerns regarding the Safelite Group. And as we go through this podcast today, we will refer to them as the Safelite Group because we all know the components of Safelite Solutions, also known as SGC. And we also know of their retail, which is just Safelite and honk and creeping on your family at picnics and just Johnny on the spot with some glass for no good reason. And we know Saturday Night Live covered that very well. And then they got a takedown. NBC Universal actually had to take that down. So that was weird.
I did hear that.
But everybody's out there freaking out going, oh my God, well, there goes our business. We're going to see new rates. We're not going to have the same frequency of being in a rotation. And, what does it mean? And we kind of want to deconstruct this. We want to talk about unifying the glass industry. And we also want to get down to those things that don't really matter and the things you should be focusing on. So with that being said, one of the first things I want to get to before we are entertained by George and Mark, because you're sick of hearing me. And, I'm sorry I interrupted everybody's Sunday with a special call to arms, but it was necessary. But one of the things I want to get out there before we do anything else, we did announce up on Facebook over the weekend that there is a link that you can go to. And in this link, it's really easy to, first of all, sign up. So you're going to go to iga.org/advocacy. And it's in the link in the Facebook page, or exactly what you just heard. It's also in the description of this post. So definitely, if you haven't signed up for it yet, log in. Now, if you want to view what we're sending out, phase one on your behalf, click on this click here button, and it's going to show you an example of what's being sent. So here is something that was sent to the Arizona Department of Insurance and Financial Institutions on behalf of a glass shop. And we outline everything that are about the Safelite Group and those things that we believe Safelite is causing harm to, which is the consumer, the glass shop, and we're calling it the entire industry. So if you want to read that through to see what the IGA is sending out, definitely do that. But this form, fill it out on a tablet or maybe even a PC or your Apple or whatever, but on a mobile phone. A lot of people have complained because it's a form that's inside of here that is long and it's scrollable. We'd much rather you see the whole thing, read each one of these before you click it, read what you're doing, and then what we need you to do is we need you to sign legibly, not this or anything like that, but your best signature possible. And that's why maybe a computer or a tablet is going to work out much better, because this is the signature we will be attaching to every single one of your forms. So definitely make sure that you do that, and that will assist greatly. So now when you do submit this form, we are going to then immediately send the first letter out, which again is this letter that is going to go to your Department of Insurance. It is going to go to your state legislators. So that's going to be both sides of the legislators. You're then going to get this letter sent to you on behalf of your shop to the Federal Trade Commission and to several lobbyists that are pro in the auto glass sector. So once you've done that, it's cruise control. We're doing that. You don't have to be an IGA member. So www.iga.org/advocacy on that. So with that being said, George, what do you think of everything we just put together here, making it easy for everybody?
I'll tell you, it inspired me enough to send you money. It's not a lot of money. It's important to the industry. We don't have the resources that our largest competitors do. It's inexpensive enough. You need to get on board, help support this association, and that form, what, it took 3 minutes, I think.
Yeah. I think most people stumble on their address.
Yeah. But let's talk about membership in the IGA if we can. What was
Sure.
that? Just a little over $300?
Right. So anybody starting off, it's like $249 a year, and then it scales up the larger the shop is. But the thing is, in this case, while I appreciate you bringing up the membership, we're not even asking shops to join for this campaign. I know a lot of shops out there are skeptical of the IGA. Some things that the IGA did in the past definitely would erode trust. I mean, I think Larry Diesbach the other day somewhere posted he remembered when the meeting in Las Vegas was in 2004, I believe it was, when they passed the hat around.
Yeah, it was 4 or 5.
He's saying we're going to sue Safelite. We need everybody to join. Oh, and we need you to write a bigger check. And that's not what we're doing this time around. Completely different package campaign. What we're doing is we want to prove to the industry what we can do first. And there's no right answers or no wrong answers, but we're following a proven methodology here to get this out. So IGA membership, to your point, George, it's great to join as a member. Not only are you supporting the association in this campaign, but you're also getting a lot of benefits that go along with helping your shop become healthier, which is huge. Listing in my glass shop, Find My Glass Shop, the tools, enhanced software tools from glass part match enhancements, web quote add-ons, all that stuff. So it's great to join, and I certainly appreciate you. Thank you for joining. I know you've been one of my rougher critics, over the years. Just on a friendly nature. I don't mean like I hate that guy. I mean,
let me speak to that. I've seen the evolution of your association, and I'm completely on board with what you're doing. It's completely on the up and up. We deserve this voice, and it's really the only national voice we have. We have our local state associations, in our case here in Minnesota, the MGA. I'm putting eggs in every basket. I think that's important that we do that. It's the profit on one job that doesn't even have a calibration. That's all it is. I'm giving you one job.
And thank you for that job, and a well-earned job in Minnesota, by the way. And I can hear people right now, or see people typing in the comments. Minnesota gets the best rates.
Hey, we do. We have great legislation. I would encourage everybody to approach their legislature and mirror their language after ours. It's really saved us here.
Yeah, and in terms of saving you with Safelite, and I know the last go around didn't end well for Minnesota. 2016, 2017. I remember being called into that case, and I still don't know why. That was really weird. But just talk about real quick. You're talking about the MGA and the initiatives going on, but one of those things that's a sticking point for the MGA right now is that inspection process. Talk a little bit about that for everybody that may not
of course, know. What do we have? We have 3 so far that Safelite is the third-party claims administrator for. And how this works is we'll call in the claim, and the customer is instructed that they'll receive a link on their cell phone to do an inspection where they have to take pictures and so forth. And that's fine for younger folks, but a lot of older folks, they don't know how their smartphone works. There's permissions that are going to be asked when they go to launch that application for for that app to use their camera, and they don't understand what that is. We've had people say no, and then they can't finish that process. We had a case where an insurance agent came to our shop and did it for them. We had to go into their settings on their iPhone and undo the permissions and get it right. And it's just a hurdle that customers, they're not comfortable with it. It's an additional hurdle that, it's got to be working for Safelite, but it really does. It really doesn't keep a level playing field. And really, the biggest rub is you're not required do that inspection if you choose Safelite to replace your glass. And that's really where the rub is. If it were everybody, then, I would understand the insurance company taking that position, but it's not.
So I also just want to put this out there. So we all are on various AutoGlass Safety Council committees. You're an AGRIS registered member. You're Sean, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. So we know the inspection component of the AGRIS standard. It's there. It's one of those things where we're already tasked as AutoGlass shops in ensuring that the damage is what it is and reporting it responsibly, correct?
That's correct.
Yeah. So what I don't understand is why, and Safelite knows this. I mean, the last person on was Glenn Moses, I think, who was part of it. And I'm sure somebody will correct me if I'm wrong out there, but Safelite does not officially recognize the AutoGlass Safety Council.
No.
They participate in the committees because they're allowed to, because it's public. Anybody from the public can participate, but they don't formally recognize it. And the irony is the rest of the industry does. Their large multi-state operator competitors do recognize it and are registered members themselves. So right there, our solution to the insurance companies, if they would take that seat at the table with us, is we already have that process in place. And registered members, non-registered, anybody that follows the AGRIS standard is going to say, we already do this. We already take pictures. We already take video. We get an inspection report and provide it to the customer who is signing saying, yes, this is the damage. So the fraud prevention, if that's what this tool really is already in place in the industry. Correct? Yeah, I mean.
Yeah, and a lot of investment went into developing that standard. A lot of investment is made in the audits that we go through. We went through ours in 2024, and that's paid for by the AutoGlass Safety Council members. And
and just real quick, talk your audit. People make the audit sound like it's the tax man coming. What is that audit?
It's not. If you're doing things per the standard, it's easy. If you're recording DOT numbers and lot numbers of urethane, if you're demonstrating that you're telling the customer the safe drive away time, it's record keeping, and it's there's a lot of particular procedure, but if you're following the standard, you have nothing to worry about. You should know how long the primer takes to cure before you apply the urethane. You should know what temperature, et cetera, et cetera. It's a very easy Mark, I think you probably sat in on some.
Yeah, absolutely. And what we do is we get a list of companies that are going through an audit. And so what we like to do is come in, a couple of weeks out or a week out and just go over everything and just, hey, this is what they're going to ask. And we don't do a full-fledged mock, inspection, if you will, or an audit. But we go over the particulars and we kind of say, you're going to get hit with, they're going to look at this, look at that. And a lot of times, like you said, they're already doing it, and now we have the software, right? That, has the information there. It's easy to add, people take pictures of the VIN, they take pictures of the car, so all that stuff is, like you said, is already there. So you're already doing an inspection.
Well, and a good point of sale will have, like Gary's, will have the ability for your techs through the mobile app to, in some cases, it's as easy as scanning the barcode on the box of adhesive. And here's the thing. If you don't pass, they're going to tell you why you didn't pass, and then they're going to come back and re-audit you. So, it was important to me to pass on the first go around. The 2 times now we've been through an audit here, but it's not the end of the world if you don't. They're going to tell you what you did wrong, and you fix those issues, and they'll come back and they'll audit you again.
Yeah, so this issue is probably the inspection issue is the third most reported issue. And believe it or not, to the IGA, so if those that are out there just joining us or watching, and the IGA is new to you, iga.org/steering. And I just want to bring this up real quick. Let me just jump over here, hit share, and let's bring this up for everybody to see. So if you go to www.iga.org/steering, you will be bringing to this page where, once again, you have the capability of filing a report. And those reports are pricing and labor, steering issues, payment issues, authorization, OEM calibration, and other. Anything that has to do with this TPA, any insurance company, we want you to come and report that. Now, you can also click on view reported incidents, and you can see all of the incidents that we get, all of these reports in real time. And what's about them, you can click on them and read the information, not only from the shop, but what we're doing, asking with Safelite or our resolution with Safelite. And you can see these things. So just going down at short payments and late payments, by far our #1 complaint that we get. Secondary to that is obviously steering. Steering, without a doubt, is the second. Third is exactly what George is bringing up, that's happening everywhere. Are these inspection images needed ahead of time? Whereas if it was the job was going to Safelite, no inspection was necessary. Fourth then is going to be our OEM issue with calibration of products, and then the list goes down to there. But you can literally go through and see all of the effort that we put in and everything we do. Plus, we even say the amounts we recover. So in these cases, we're also saying this is money that's directly gone back to shops, and also too, whether or not they were an IGA member or not. So you could see in this list, it's probably 50-50. A lot of these shops that make reports are not IGA members, but we recover their short payments for them. We recover their late payments. We will get calibration issues taken care of for them. It's all up there for everybody to see. It's another service that the IGA has for the industry. But here is the most important part of all of this. And I can't ask shops really anymore until I'm, I guess, passed out and dead from turning blue in the face. But we need the data, and here's why. And I don't care who else gets on their soapbox this week and talks about this and says, we need to do this or we need to do that. You can't do anything without data. I don't care what lawyer you talk to, what congressman, legislator, federal official, they're all going to ask, can you show me the harm? And that's what the IGA's data collection has been doing, is putting together what we call the harm package. Because this we can go into and say, look, in this state, predominantly there are late payments that are 120 plus days for no good reason. The shop gets no associated late fees. And what the hell? Like, so this is the harm. If we just beat our chests and post a bunch of shit here in Facebook and social media and say, well, I think I saw somebody post the other day. Well, I didn't see it posted. It's in some super secret AGTT group, which isn't really secret, that, hey, let's all start putting $500 a month into a fund and let's sue. Well, first of all, sue who? How are you going to sue them? And whose data? And again, it's really, we've organized this. We've put this together very strategically. It's taken time. I know a lot of people have been frustrated or doubting what the IGA is doing, and we've listened. There's still a lot of people that aren't IGA members that are out there that gave us good ideas that we implemented and we put up so that the data is transparent. We're not hiding anything. So I'll just kind of leave it at that for this part of it. So State Farm, George, you've got outside sales reps that I'm guessing deal with talk to how you feel this is going to harm you, if any harm.
Well, in my previous life, I spent 28 years at a multi-shop operation, and we had occasion to visit with the team at State Farm. Customer choice is very important to them. They have the biggest target on their back in the industry, and of course, many of the viewers know by now, a letter went out. State Farm released their statement, I think, well ahead of schedule because of the grumblings in the industry. They say their program is not going to change at all. So I would assume that also means we will still have claim launch where we can file the claim ourselves through an online portal. I don't, it would lead me to believe that the pricing zones aren't going to change. And so I think the TPA is going to be in a very, very short leash.
Interesting. Well, what do you think?
Well, it's funny you say that, George. Do you think they're going to be under a short leash just because of, you said, the rumblings that are going on now? Do you think they're going to be under a microscope?
I think State Farm is going to be watching them very closely to see, I think they will listen very intently to any claims of steering. So that's where the mechanism that you've put together, Gary, is so important. State Farm needs that feedback. It's better to get it from this group than from Acme Glass in Boise. This is a much louder voice.
Yeah, I'd be interesting to see what the script is going to be, because obviously State Farm is going to, I don't know if they're going to keep the same script or they're going to write a new script for Safelite Solutions. So when they answer the phones for them, what the script is going to say as far as choice of shops. If one isn't recommended, how they're going to handle that claim. If it's going to go into a rotation.
They do claim it will be in rotation just as it was. Now, what I'm curious about in the State Farm O&A program, you could have customized offer where you could say, I'm going to do it for, and I played with that myself when we first opened, just to see, and I'd keep ticking it up to see, well, I have a feeling that the largest AutoGlass replacement company in the United States probably has the most generous customized offer. When I didn't see any results from it, after about 6-8 weeks, I pulled out of it and went back to our normal pricing. We vary even now. It's rare that I see a Lynx rotational job. I think that could be partly because this market is conditioned. Every company every company of any scale that we compete against has a sales rep, and the agents have their favorites to refer clients to that don't have a preference. So I don't think many end up rotationally.
And you think that's up in your area where you have, I think, a different scale of glass shop up in that area versus a Phoenix or even, Las Vegas or a Southern California market, because you guys don't have the mobile technician like we see in other areas. So
maybe relative to our population, we do, but there's a handful of, guys in a truck. But, we have a handful of multi-shop operators in the market. We sell ourselves on our experience. We sell ourselves on being local. We sell ourselves on, when you call us, you get us. You don't get a call center. You get us.
Yeah.
And
I think that's a great way to do it. I recommend shops to do that. If they are calling on agents, right? Let that agent know, or the office staff know, we are a local company. By recommending us, who's going to take care of your customer, right? And it's not going to go to an 800 number and then one of 50, 60 plus shops have an opportunity to do your insured's work, right? So I agree with that 100%, to, make those agent calls and educate them who you are, and that's, once they get on that, they know you personally, right? And then they get a phone call.
Get involved in your community, sponsor Little League Baseball, sponsor kids sports, do things that differentiate you from the multi-shop operations. And Safelite's not the only one with multiple shops, and get involved in your community, join your chamber of commerce, make sure people know you. We do television and radio, and of course, at Google AdWords, and we're doing okay. I'm optimistic about our future. We've had growth every year.
Yeah.
Well, and too, you talked about the marketing aspect of it, and if people watch the podcast or follow the IGA, we had Seminole AutoGlass on recently, which again, there's another example of getting involved in your community. That glass shop spends money in sponsoring teams and sports, and I had a very interesting conversation this morning with another colleague in the industry where we were talking about Ohio, and that's Safelite's playground, their backyard, and just how much they spend in the infrastructure in almost every small town and city and rural community in Ohio. There is a Safelite ad in almost every ballpark, basketball stadium, pickleball court, like crap like that. And it's because they're doubling down in their own backyard. And now, meanwhile, there's glass shops that are like, I'm just going to wrap my F-150 truck up my glass rack in the back, and I deserve all the insurance business in the community. And I have a half-ass Wix website with a mixed message Gmail bullshit address. And it's like, that's not doubling down, and that's not being involved in your community. And of course, no agent's going to know who you are. In fact, very few people are going to know who you are, yet they're the first ones beating their chest, going, I'm losing business. I don't get this. Safelite's doing that. And it's like, well, what are you doing to make your business better? There's all these things glass shops should be doing anyway, regardless of who the TPA is. Let's pretend there was no TPA. Then the next complaint is, my competitor's doing this. Who's the guy out there selling F-150 replacements at 140? And it's garbage like that. That's like, okay, but what are you doing about your shop? So that's also another key part of this going forward is, while everybody is running around like Chicken Little saying the sky is falling, at the same time, it's also a wake-up call. While the IGA is doing the heavy lifting on the Federal Trade Commission side and your insurance side, local shops need to start doubling down in their communities. And one of the things that I know Mark has mentioned, and I know works well here, and a lot of the Southwest and West Coast shops get together like once a quarter sometimes at like a Holiday Inn Express or something, and have a 2-hour meeting and just discuss the issues, what's going on. Even if it's just from the standpoint of like, hey, this guy, I know he worked for you. What's this guy's problem? It's things like that you should be sitting down and talking with your competitors in your market. That's what small business entrepreneurs do. I know a lot of communities have these marketing groups that get together, and you can have one city that has 19 like BNIs, and each BNI has a different AutoGlass shop in it. So technically you're all still competing, but you're part of an organization. Why wouldn't you want to get together and talk? And that's what you've done in Minnesota to an extent, right, George? I mean, the MGA is facilitating glass shop owners' voices.
Yeah. And when we get in there, we're just people in the same business. They're going to get theirs. I'm going to get mine. But, we're all fighting for us independence. This is my 42nd year in this business. I remember NAG's rebalance. What was that, 2008? I think hasn't that happened? I feel like that's happened.
It was in the late 90s.
Yeah, the first one. And then the second one, 2006, I think it was. 2007. Yeah. And
I feel like there's never been a better time to be in this business. Now, I think as competition increases in the calibration space, I think we're going to see the amount we're reimbursed for that service. I think that's going to go down. If you're not in it now, you better get in it so you can pay for that equipment, because these aren't going to become self-calibrated.
No, I believe that as well. Why, just out of curiosity, George, why do you feel it's going to go down? The calibration.
I think availability. When you see larger retailers like Firestones and Goodyears, when they get into that space, and they need to be, I'm baffled as to why they're not. Because replacing struts, replacing tires, trigger a calibration. I just see the amount that we're reimbursed going down. I think it's inevitable.
Yeah. Well, and it does, it gets to the point of saturation where, so now we've already seen national chains partnering with distribution to offer a model in their communities where they claim it's quote unquote maybe underserved, or they're saying it's on the guise of we're offering glass shops that don't provide calibration services an easier way through our distribution model to do it, which is just pure BS. It's another business and cash grab. It's just self-serving and selfish. That's the bagel everything concept, as I like to put it. I know I'm beat up about it every day, but it's important because what's happening is in those markets where a static was $275, 2 months later, a static's $225 cash, and then cash it's $150. And we've already seen up in Canada, for instance, British Columbia, ICBC, an insurance company, already down. Now this is Canadian dollars, so if we were to convert it, it's like 8 cents. It's ridiculous, but I joke with the currency conversion, but they will be our 51st state. That now up there, a poor shop is doing $100 calibration, 100 Canadian dollars. If you convert that, we're now like below 75 US dollars for static calibration because an insurance company came in and said, this is all we're going to pay. That could happen here.
The thing is, and I personally compiled a list of all the reasons that calibration costs what it does. We have a tremendous amount of liability. I personally have, I think, $225,000 invested in equipment for my shops. We have courtesy vehicles so that when people have a static, we have a car for them so they don't have to wait 2 hours. And I'm constantly, through our marketing efforts, driving the point home that this is something that you can't, you can't cut corners on. The air pressure in the tires matters. Is there cargo in the car that needs to be removed for the calibration? Are there any DTCs for modules related to what you're calibrating? Now, what we did when I opened, I bought the equipment to do all the ATIS components, blind spot, around view monitor, etc. So, in smaller markets, I think that's a pretty good play because we have a constant stream of collision centers who don't have the space, who can't make the investment to do a Volvo, an Audi, a BMW. And there's plenty of markets like that across the United States where you'd be the only game in town. And once you know how to do a static calibration, you can calibrate any of it. I mean, you do want to be very careful about the equipment that you select. You are going to need a original, OE software solution, but it's 25% of my revenue.
Wow. Yeah. And so speaking of that, I'm glad you brought the revenue point up. I'm pretty sure you saw the AutoGlass Safety Council floated a memo, I guess we could call it, this morning. Like something with regards to they're going to do a webinar on April 24th, I think it is. If I have those dates wrong, again, somebody will correct me. But basically, they're saying part of this webinar is going to show shops how they can identify what portion of State Farm is their business. And I'm going to go out on a limb here, and I'd say pretty much any shop from the smaller one man all the way up has a good idea of like what State Farm represents to their business, what USAA, blah, 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 what just all of that. But when it comes to revenue, though, when you're talking, it's 25% of your revenue. Is that your gross revenue or your net?
My gross revenue.
Okay. So shops, what I see is, and this is where the real educational point is, not larger shops that don't have a CPA or accountant or somebody in finance, but the smaller shops just go, they're 10% of my business. I'm like, well, in overall of your business, what is that in revenue? What is that? Just not, you have 150 jobs a week and 10% of those are State Farm jobs, but what is that in revenue? And at the end of the day, are you making money off of it or are you not making money? Because if you have 10 or 20%, that's great. That's a decent amount. But at the end of the day, is it just cash flow, or by the time you actually service that account, Are you in the red, breaking even, or making money on it? And a lot of shops freeze there and they like, I don't know. They don't know. Yeah. And that's a big part of this is getting a good grasp. First of all, get software. And I really wish that these groups on Facebook would just shut down any question when it comes to, I need part pricing, I need this. Get software. It solves all your problems. When you talk about as cheap as $5 a month up to, I think Glassbuilder is like 200 or less. Still, anywhere between 0 and 200 per month is a fair amount to run your shop. Because if you go and look at QuickBooks and what Intuit charges, you're like, that's crazy. And it's this, I don't understand the mentality. And these are all things that Safelite will be using to deconstruct our arguments. Period. I mean, we're talking about it right now. So any of them watching, they're gonna be like, oh, great, Hart just gave us that idea. But going down the whole rabbit hole here becomes, okay, what are the shops going to do as the IGA takes care of this front end part for them? What can the industry do now is educate, get involved with the AutoGlass Safety Council if you're not, because one of the big things that the IGA is going to be leaning in on is that AGSC registered member aspect, and or having AGSC certified technicians, whatever class they are, because that is what differentiates us as far as safety goes as an industry. And that is something for us to lean in on, because that is something we should be proud of, is the standard. But that is something that eventually I can see coming down the line, that some states will require some sort of licensing that has a component for training or certification from a national entity like the AutoGlass Safety Council. What are your thoughts on that as a registered member, George?
Well, I think that's very important. Now more than ever, the days of having cars come in here that were installed in Butyl, they're gone. So the industry is, particularly the adhesive manufacturers have done a fantastic job of getting this industry to use the correct products and use them correctly. My biggest concern is calibration. I mean, just because you got a pass doesn't mean that it's calibrated accurately. A camera that's off by just 1 degree equals 21 inches at 100 feet. And it takes you more than 100 feet to stop a car traveling 35 miles an hour on dry pavement. And that's if you have some decent reflexes. Now put the older driver behind the car, or a car, or the guy that's just came from happy hour. I think that it's really critical that states get involved to make sure that these systems are calibrated accurately. And with that, I do see that the margin holding up. But if we just let this cash grab go as it is, it won't be taken seriously enough.
Yeah, no, this is true. And two, you brought up the legislative aspect of it. There is a plan in the not too distant future for the IGA when it comes to, as we engage with state legislative bodies for either working with legislation that they're proposing, and that's one of the reasons why we rebutted the NCOIL. And if anybody's like saying, what the hell's Hart talking about, NCOIL.org, you can go look them up. They are a group of national legislators with support legislators in crafting template law, so that a state can go, oh, here's a template. I want to go after AutoGlass. I can just now introduce this bill because it's a template. So I fill in our state name, I fill in this, and I take it, I get some sponsors, and we have a House bill on the floor. The thing is, Safelite, I'm going to say that again, Safelite participated in this latest draft that's going to be adopted in April. And we are doing our damnedest to get in front of that to say, this is a draft that's full of it. Now, if we can't do that, we've already started reaching out to the legislative bodies that we know are considering adopting this in their state. And we're saying, here's why we don't want you to do it. You didn't get the right information. Here's all of our complaints and concerns. We've already published that. I know a lot of different media outlets outside of our industry picked up on it. Just so everybody knows, our news for the IGA is not picked up by our media in this industry. So if you're looking for IGA news, you either have to come get it from the IGA, IGA.org, our Facebook page, our social media, or I don't know, go look at Collision Week and all the other magazines and stuff that are on the opposite side of our industry that's out there. But NCOIL is another one of those things. We're tackling the legislative issues on that. And again, this is where your letters for signing up that we mentioned at the beginning of this, if you've signed your waiver, these letters go to them. Each wave we're going to announce to you. Here's the second letter. We're going to show you what we're sending out. And two, as we send these out, you will get an update on a weekly basis that says, these are the people we contacted. So you'll have your own list in an email that says, here's each person, so that you have their contact details. So if you want, as a shop, to contact them ever, these are the people you should be going to as well. So you're complaining to the IGA, you're filing a complaint then with each one of those people. So we're giving you those individuals, and at least they're good. I think the next mid-year election cycles next year, or the year after. No, it's 26. And then we've got the second, which is the 4-year cycle in 2028. So, and two, we see states lose legislators from death, whatever. So we'll update those as much as we can, but we're doing that for you, but you've got to be doing some things behind the scenes. And those are some of the things we're talking. I want to turn it to you, Mark, real quick, because as a representative for SECA, and you have your materials available to AGSC register and anybody, as far as your cure times, adhesives, your reps put on training.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So there is no excuse in the industry for shops to have, for technicians to be certified from the adhesive level all the way up to AGSC, correct? Like
there's no reason why they shouldn't be. You mean?
Yeah, there's no reason why.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, our competition, us, if you don't have some kind of certification in your urethane manufacturer, then I'd say shame on you. I mean, and granted, guys, I'll say this: squeaky wheel gets the grease. I'll take Jim Jansen, for example, who takes care of George in his territory. He has a tremendous territory, and for him to get everywhere is impossible. So I encourage everybody, if you want to get certification in your urethane system, reach out to that company, find out who you need to talk to. We will come to you. But granted, if you live off the beaten path, there's chances are we're not going to see you. Yeah. So if you're not certified in your urethane manufacturer, then, I basically say, shame on you. And granted, we get, to the metropolis areas, the bigger cities, obviously, we cover. There's lots of business there, and that's kind of our focus, So if you're in a rural area, definitely reach out to us. But yeah, there's no reason why, and I encourage everybody too, just because you have 10, 15, 20 years, 25 years, technology's changed. The way we install is different than what we did when I started out, back in the 80s. You educate yourself on the new technology and why we're doing the process we're doing, because cars have changed. Manufacturing has changed in the windshields. Yeah. So getting the proper bond is not as easy as what it used to be. So definitely reach out to your urethane manufacturer, whoever that may be, and educate yourself. Get the training. Like George, I know you're an AGSC member, but reach out to them, because I think this training and certification will be important. And what Safelite is going to say, hey, we don't need the AGSC because we have SafeTech. It's same, equivalent, however you want to say it. So all of their technicians go through that. And so I would encourage everybody, because we need that. Yeah. Your certification, that is going to be your equivalent to compete with Safelite, to say, hey, yeah, I'm certified as well. Or my technicians are certified as well as all of theirs are. So I think it's super important that you guys reach out and get certified, obviously with AGSC, or at least your urethane manufacturer. Yeah. Because we bring I always tell guys, oh, I don't need that. I've been doing this for 20 years. And I'll go, look, just sit in on it. You're going to pick up something, especially when we get into the glass prep section and we talk about the importance of glass prep and the contamination that's on all these windows now. A lot of guys, they don't realize it.
Yeah,
You know?
and I know it's been floated around. You talk about, because right now there is no barrier to entry. I can literally go to any supplier or distributor and buy your product right off the shelf.
Yep.
And they never ask me, do you know how to use this? Do you know how these products work together?
Yep. And
I go, you know what? Saw it on YouTube. Have a nice day.
and here's the problem I have is because that same person, regardless if they use my product or a competitor's product, when they lose adhesion and it has a leak or it stress cracks, they are going to ask that distributor to take that window back. And it's not their fault because they possibly did an improper installation. They missed the contamination, the windshield released, water penetrated, or stress cracked, or for whatever reason, the heated park area didn't work because they used the wrong urethane.
Yep.
And they always go back to that distributor and they want a credit
And
they want a discount on the next part.
And we're bringing this up because this does go back to right now. What's happening in the world of the Safelite group is they are hiring OSS or outside sales specialists or strategic sales people, however you want to put it. These are individuals that are going to be blanketing the markets. They've already gone out along the eastern seaboard, from what we can tell. It's really easy to find out who they're hiring from their Indeed posts and their various online hiring agencies. And we're starting to see that these are going to be tactics that these salespeople will be using, going, well, Mark's Glass Shop, you can't trust those guys. They're not. We've got, our technicians are all safe tech. They do this and that. But Mark's, like, look, here's Mark's website. Oh, look, but by the way, look at Mark's website. They're going to be using all of these things. So if you don't have your website on point, if you don't have your local marketing on point, meaning to a Google profile that's filled out correctly and actually has reviews, they're going to use that against you. And these are all things that right now we're letting you know ahead of time. Start getting your ducks in a row if you don't have them in a row. You need these things. And whether it's Sika or it's anybody else that's out there, go get the certification because you'll need that. You guys all have your little emblems I see on.
Yeah. We give you a certificate if you want to display it on your office wall. Put it on your website. At least you have some kind of certification.
And I didn't mean little. I don't know. It could be a patch. It could be something. Well, it is a patch. I've seen those. Yeah.
Obviously we give you, what credentials that say certified, technician.
So, because I have your patch on my Easy Bake oven apron that I wear on the weekends.
Thank you.
Yeah. I when I'm pretending to be an AutoGlass guy. But no, I mean, those are all good points.
And then also to your point of updating your website. So if you are a Neighbors member or you're affiliated with the IGA, right? Put that on your website, because it brings, just awareness to your website that your knowledge about the industry, you support the industry, and your certifications are all right there if anybody needs to see them.
Yeah. And I want to go back to something that George said. Let's see right there. Look, he's got that one.
There you go.
Well, yeah, that's just my son's that he left on his toolbox. So it's got a little bit of Monster Energy drink spilled on it.
And I know your IGA one should be getting to you soon. That was put in the mail last week.
I was going to add to Mark's commentary. Also, speaking of your website images or your Google business page images, have on safety glasses, have on gloves. That's one of the things that they'll pick apart. But Mark, I was going to ask you, you know a little bit more about Safe Tech. Is that an ANSI standard too?
Yes, it is. It is.
Is it really?
As far as I know, it is, George. Unless something has changed. I'm sure there's
American National Standards Institute.
Yeah, there might be somebody listening that used to be involved or worked at Safelite. But I know their Safe Tech test is pretty in depth. It's not an easy task, and a lot of times when we go out and train and certify ex Safelite techs, when we let them know that there is a test, a lot of them just kind of hang their head because they're thinking it's going to be, this big, test like they used to take at Safelite. So, again, I don't know 100%, George, but I believe it is. But, like Gary says, somebody in the comments can maybe.
If you know right now, if you're watching right now, drop it in the comment when you put it up.
Yeah.
I'm looking it up right now.
Okay.
Look at you.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know that ANSI would issue a standard for the same thing to two different entities with two different.
I do not know, but I thought it was, but like I said, it's been a minute since I worked for Safelite, so I am not sure.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if somebody on here is hooked up with Kim, the attorney on the AGSC. Maybe hit Kim up; he can answer it back. I mean, he's kind of in the know there.
But yeah, I know. Safelite does offer safe tech. Obviously that's why they say we don't need the AutoGlass Safety Council. We have our own.
Yeah, the only thing I have with that, though, before I go back to something George said earlier about the computer systems and stuff, is we see so many posts where it's a Safelite job that was just butchered. And we've seen so many examples. Now, I'd say for every one Safelite job, we also have one independent job that is the same. I think it's a 1-for-1, but if the Safelite credentialing is harder, why do we see a lower knowledge base from the technicians on that side? Is it because they come in and they're now there's more tools available to them than at Safelite? Or
I can't speak for Safelite, but if I had to take a guess,
hypothetically,
I would assume that they probably put their trainees into the field probably sooner than what they should.
Okay.
And George, you've been doing this a long time. I started in '84, and AutoGlass is all about reps, right? So the more installs you do, the more experience you have under the belt, the better you're going to get. Just like when a new car comes out, right? Sometimes it used to take me, 3-4 times of working on the same car before it was dialed in, right? I knew exactly how I was going to set it. The position, of running urethane, if you're going to gun the glass, you're going to gun the body, whatever it is, you may have to do that vehicle a few times to perfect your craft, even though you're skilled, right? So, and I would assume, I'm not banging on any Safelite technicians. I know they do have some great techs, as well as, George, I've met a few of your guys, you have some great techs from what I can remember. As long as you still have the same crew, which I assume you probably do. Yeah. So very skilled technician. So, and I think that's really important for a glass shop, and you independent guys, when you bring technicians on, educate them, certify them, because your competition's doing that, right? So make sure all of your techs are operating in the same manner. Whatever process procedure you're doing as a company, follow that all the way through to all your techs. Don't let one guy, he does it this way because, or that guy does this because.
So and that brings so George, I don't know if there's a confidentiality agreement or place or whatnot, but your former place of employment was City AutoGlass, and for those in the industry who don't know, City was acquired by Safelite.
Yep.
So that was a while back. What was the attrition rate like for technicians post-acquisition? Did a lot of them stay on with Safelite, or they saw the writing on the wall and just boogieing when they could?
What I know, and I don't have a non-disclosure agreement with Safelite AutoGlass.
Nice.
They were offered a stay bonus that was paid in increments over a span of time, and they're still working under that.
A stay bonus.
Yeah, actually, I think they've been doing that for quite a while because they were making these acquisitions.
I mean, that's what Marriott makes, or Hilton's like, here's your stay bonus.
Yeah.
You pick anything from the pantry downstairs. You're like, yay, microwave popcorn again. Can't wait. Like,
Well, I think that's part of what they're buying when they buy a company. I mean, they need technicians.
Yeah.
As we all know, they've lost their share over wiper blades and similar things that affect tech bonuses that techs didn't like. And, I would just say this. There's a lot of good people there, and they're just people paying their mortgage and their car payment,
Yeah.
I will say this. When you call in a claim, you know what they're going to ask. Just be professional, be kind. Those people are just trying to make a living. You always catch more flies with honey than you do with vinegar. With our experience, we know how the process is going to go. We know what we need to do when it doesn't go like we think it's going to go. And I wouldn't say we have a lot of trouble. Now, you and I were talking last week, Gary. One of the interesting things, though, one of the things that makes me go, whenever we use a VIN decoder, we use yours. We have a couple others that we use, and it identifies what windshield goes in that vehicle. And if it's a Ford Super Duty, that vehicle took a windshield with Super Duty in the third visor frit. If it's a Jeep Renegade, there's going to be a Willys logo. If it's a Wrangler, it's going to have a Jeep grill up in the third visor. Well, when we have a claim for one of those, we put in what the customer's entitled to. They always pay us for the non-logo equivalent. And that's interesting. And then I had, over the span of about 3 weeks, 2 customers come to us that they had problems with their install, and their agent said, well, go over and have these guys look at it. So one was a Jeep Wrangler, one was a Super Duty. Neither one of them had logo parts in it. And I thought that was very odd. And that, coupled with the fact that they're paying us for the aftermarket, right? Mopar and Carlite are kind of carved out their own little deal that doesn't follow the rules of the rest of the OE parts. But we bring it to their attention, and they always pay the rest. And it just would be interesting to follow one of those claims to see what XYZ insurance.
The interesting thing, and this is a good segue back to the earlier conversation before we wrap it up, because I know people also on social media go, your podcasts are too long. It's like, okay, fine, but this is important stuff that everybody needs to know. And you don't have to consume this all in one session either. It's okay to break up a podcast over time. It's like me, I like these Kindle books and stuff. I'll get like 2 pages in and go, there's 90 other things to do. I think it takes me like 2 years to read a book, or it's even worse. Like, I know you travel a lot, but listening to something, I can only digest it in small parts, but I come back to it. But anyway, something that Safelite has built over time, and it's information you can just Google, and it's been brought up here and there in news articles. It's called their SV2 system. And what this is it's the computer system that powers the Safelite group. And what a big part of this representation of the SV2 system was in this whistleblower suit on how the software was programmed, in a sense, to do things. It's that same programming that drives the scripts, how CSRs operate, when jobs are presented, VIN numbers, vehicles are presented, which ones may or may not be cherry picked. We don't know exactly how this SV2 system works, but as we continue to dig through discovery items and past court cases, we keep gleaning more and more of this SV2 system through various agents or people that ran these departments at one point under deposition had to answer to, well, what's your software system called? What does it do? How did the CSR know this? So as we're able to start deconstructing this, we're using modeling to start building a good idea of what the software system is. I'm bringing this up because this is why insurance companies stay with Safelite, is they have this system that allows the program to be performed to their satisfaction, to their scripting, to their guaranteed average invoicing, and contractually, from what we understand in some of these agreements, that there is some amount of work that Safelite is contractually obligated to do. How is that determined? Is it round robin, or is it the SV2 system saying, well, here's this vehicle, that's the one that's going to Safelite, so the CSR is going to do whatever they can to get that job, or here's your 98 whatever, and that could go to Mark's AutoGlass. There you go. We're not even going to complain. And what we're saying is start paying attention to the scripting. The ones that you're challenged more on, are they the more lucrative vehicles, or are they the vehicles you could see that would be a throwaway claim to any maybe shop, for instance? But those are things that maybe to look at. But this SV2 system, that's another thing that we're eyeing, that we are looking at. And it was brought up. I know Jacques Navant and I had a conversation about it. That I was saying, hey, what's all of these things? I mean, Jacques is how long ago did Jacques work at Safelite? Decades, eons ago?
I would assume at least maybe 10 to 13 years ago, possibly.
Yeah. So Jacques, who's the current president of the AutoGlass Safety Council, I'm just curious and just asking anybody who used to work for Safelite, SV2, and and it's one of those things that anybody who's worked for them knows they have a software system. To the extent of that software system, we can't get any answers, but we get those answers through looking up this public information. So that's something else that's out there that's on our radar screen that we want to know more about.
Yeah, that kind of makes sense, because George, you probably hear this as well, or I know if you're doing three-way calls with your customer or the insured into the networks, because I've heard stories where they're actually on the phone with them, and that CSR is going, okay, we'll get Safelite right out to do the job, and they're like going, hey, I'm right here.
Yeah.
It's like,
and then other calls that doesn't happen.
Yeah. So that, because
coincidence?
I don't know.
Yeah.
But and you could be onto something.
Yeah. I mean, and it's all good. This is all speculative. what we're talking here, nothing. I'm sure at some point we'll hear from stupid lawyers on this, and I'm not saying all lawyers are stupid, but in general, in the scheme of how this operates, it becomes annoying when a lawyer has to get involved. So we're saying we don't know. It's speculative. I would like to use a term that's thrown around these days called common sense, almost, that we're putting two and two together. It seems like if you have this and the outcome's this, the in between is the common sense. So let's draw that line. Sometimes it isn't, but that is something, again, that we're looking at, that we're making an emphasis on, because what do independents need? And we need our own system as well, which we do have. It's something the IGA has been working on for years. It started off as called the Open Claims Program. And if you go to openclaimsprogram.com, you will find yourself at myglassshop.com, because that is what we've put the umbrella for independent glass shops. You, again, do not need to be an IGA member to have your shop listed on there, but we are creating a giant repository of independent glass shops throughout the country that you will get the fair shot for consumers looking for a glass shop in your market. We're paying for the SEO. We're paying for all the back web linking. We're doing all of that. Again, you don't have to be a member. Just get listed now. I will say this. IGA members, obviously, you get a boost. And if you're an IGA member and an AGSC registered member, you get the very top slot in your markets. You might be sharing that with other members with the same credentials. But again, we're providing, again, this tool and this resource for the community, for consumers to work with. But we're showing the insurance companies we have our own transparent, non-biased system. And I hate using the word bias and non-biased because to an extent we are biased in saying here's our system that's non-biased. But at the same time, we're saying independents do have the capability to do claims. And it's not going to be offered through a software company that comes in here, because then their interests may be not aligned. It could be a software company that operates in our industry today that has your data and has been sharing your data at like AutoGlass Week and things of that nature. They're going to sell your data out. So your cash prices, all of them, can be rolled up into an insurance program where the insurance companies say, oh, that's interesting. We've never done a pricing survey in Boise, but here's 19 shops of Boise data that we can go off of. Guess what, everybody? New price is $125. So these are things that we want to make sure that any platform that's brought is open source, meaning it is free to the community to use and implement. So we want to get everybody first listed on myglassshop.com. You can go do that right now. It's free. But our long-term goal is that gets the open claims program put back up so that alternative to a TPA like Safelite or even driven claims becomes open source direct, where insurance companies get the best of all worlds, but they get it in a transparent way that's fair. It takes things into account like Minnesota as far as real-time retail pricing surveys go that are, and correct me if I'm wrong on that, your insurance division handles the surveys, correct?
I don't have an insurance. It's all one division.
Yeah. So yeah,
we do it all here.
They handle that survey what, quarterly, yearly, and
the Department of Commerce.
yes, yeah, that's what I meant. Yeah.
You tell you the truth, Gary, I don't know. We quote what we quote based on market conditions, and
so interesting. So your shop hasn't been contacted to complete a survey?
not formally. I mean, maybe they're calling on the phone.
Interesting. Maybe
maybe we're not on their radar yet. This is just our 5th year, but I don't recall that at the last place, and that would have landed on my lap.
No, I mean, you're just such a presence, George, that they know to skip right over you. Yeah.
Well, my guess is that it may be handled through the local association.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know that. I know that it was baked into that law that there was a pricing survey that was supposed to occur.
Yes. A rate that's considered reasonable and customary. And I think probably they're grabbing some of that data because we have the arbitration process in Minnesota. I haven't had to use that, but almost a week doesn't go by where I don't think about it.
All right. Well, before
we've had some. You have situations. We had a car that wouldn't calibrate. We wanted to get authorization for OE right out of the gate on this Volvo. They said no. It wouldn't calibrate. There wasn't another brand available, but they weren't this particular company who they do a lot of. It's direct to consumer. They I won't say who they are. I will just say that their commercials are funny, and they didn't want to pay labor again. They didn't want to pay kit again. They didn't want to pay calibration again. And we went back and forth quite a while. And when we finally did get paid the difference, I did the math again, and I thought, I don't know how we all screwed this up, but it wasn't enough. By that time, they wore me out. I was done. I'll just take it. I'm not going to step over a $1 problem to pick up. How does that go?
Step over 20 cents.
I would say step over a quarter to pick up a dime.
Right. I mean, at some point, we just move on because we have other customers to take care of, and our administrative time costs us something. I didn't lose money, but going back to my point about the logo parts, though, had it not been for this whistleblower incident, I probably wouldn't have any speculation about what's happening with logo parts, but I'm kind of curious if other people in the industry are seeing this too.
Yeah.
It is systematic, literally every time. It's not any one company, but it's every time we put a logo part in.
Yeah.
We've even used the fast track system to say, hey, this calls for this part number. This is what the customer has. This is what we're putting in, and still short pay.
Yeah, well, and we haven't heard the end of this whistleblower thing yet. I'm hearing rumblings that this is to be continued, and more so continued on a class action lawsuit that would be on behalf of insureds that were harmed because of their insurance paid for a COVID treatment that didn't happen, allegedly. Or a material that was billed for and not used allegedly. So who knows? But it would be upwards of maybe $500 million. And obviously, to file a case like that, you'd have to do discovery. And in discovery, each side gets to ask a lot of different things, and the judge can decide whether or not it's necessary. But to George's point, additional parts and things like this that now we go on beyond the scope of an alcohol pad and some universal molding that should have been OE. where else does this go? And that extra
Well,
juice is
if I'm the insurance industry,
holds the ticket to all of it.
if I'm the insurance industry, I'd like to know what I overpaid for.
Yeah, but you see, this is the difficulty I still have with the nativity of the insurance companies, that in this case material and some cases I know of through involvement, that they get into court or they get into a deposition and literally have a hard time even explaining their understanding of what NAGS is. So a basic element of our industry, they're like, it's this thing, it's a catalog, it's something like that. And I sometimes I wonder how much they're downplaying it, but at the same time, they genuinely also look like they are deer in headlights. They're like, well, we have this thing and we're relying on this relationship to handle that for us. They're doing it right? And it's like, no, because you're here in a lawsuit. So that's why we're talking about it. And sadly, all of these cases, as most that are not criminal, end up getting settled out. A lot of it doesn't get released to the public. It's sealed for some reason, and we don't get to see it. So, but the cases that are out there, for as much damage as everybody says Florida caused to their own situation, everything, it did glean a lot of good public information. There's a lot of dockets that are federal, because once insurance companies were sued, their go-to is RICO. Everything's racketeering. Here we go. The glass shop was organized crime, and it's like, yeah, it's your go-to. It grinds you down because all of a sudden you need to spend a whole lot more money to defend yourself federally than you would do, locally. So it's crazy, but that's something to be on the lookout for. I bet you that we see that Band-Aid ripped off in the next 8 months. And I don't think we've heard the end of that story, but just to recap, everybody, we have a petition out. We filed a complaint. I don't want to say petition. We filed a complaint with the Federal Trade Commission. We have filed a complaint already with all of your state legislators and your Department of Insurance and or their equivalent. Some states don't directly have a Department of Insurance, so we've taken care of that. Phase 2 now is your responsibility. www.iga.org/advocacy. And you're going to fill out a waiver allowing the IGA on your behalf to send these complaints out on your behalf of your shop and you will get all the information back on it. You do not have to be an IGA member. If you'd like to join the IGA, we welcome it. We believe everybody should. Just as we believe everybody should be a registered member of the AGSC, you should have your technician certified, all of that good stuff. Also, too, one other thing I want to point out, there's other podcasts, other rumblings, and other groups where people are saying, no, it's not effective to do a complaint campaign or letter writing campaign. And yes, it is, because what we're doing is we're flooding the switchboards, the email addresses, and the inbound mail of all of these legislators and people that they're going to go, what's going on? And so out of almost 7,414 total contacts we have to mail to, if just 1% or 2% took action, that's all we need for this fire to start. And believe it or not, 3 states, the governors have already agreed to listen to what we've got going on. So those are our battleground states. We will be announcing who those are here shortly and how we're going to deal with those. 2 of them are actually deductible states. So it's not like this is in Arizona or Texas or something like that. These are states where you're already paying $500,000 deductible, but they're keen to say, no, we don't want this kind of anti-competitive behavior in our backyard. So we'll be tackling that, but it all still involves communication and letter writing. So there is no magic wand. We don't have our hat being passed around. We're not looking for every shop to put $500 in so we can hire Dewey, Cheatham, and Howe to sit down and draft 9 months worth of BS stuff. And there's a whole podcast we're going to do on this regard to where we're going to talk about why the IGA's lawsuit back in 2005 failed with Safelite and what the shops still need to do about that. So that's up and coming. But before I go, gentlemen, anything you'd like to add? Any last minute things? Mark?
Yeah, I'll go first. But guys, with the State Farm thing, like Gary said, know how many jobs you're doing, right? And if you don't know, go back and look, because when this takes effect, you want to make sure you're still capturing the same amount of business, and you may have to babysit some of these jobs as they go through. And some of you may remember back in early 2000s when farmers, when Safelite Solutions, I had customers that literally said they lost as much as 50% of their farmer's business. So I'm not saying that this is going to happen, but if you normally do, I don't know, 15 jobs a month with State Farm, or you do 30 jobs a month with State Farm, or 100, whatever that number is, 2 weeks in to the month, if you don't see jobs coming, you need to be active, and I recommend go see your agents. You normally do business with them. I would educate them, talk to them, and they may have to come out with a new format. Hey, let us know when you have a claim or an insured that has a broken windshield, and you may have to do a 3-way call with them. And I know for a lot of shops that might be hard.
Yeah,
And if I may speak to your point, developing a relationship with insurance agents is a slow pay. You introduce yourself the first time you come around. Make sure they know where you're from. You're interrupting their day, walking in that office, or make an appointment. But be polished, be professional, put on some nice clothes. Meet with them at their level. These are business professionals, and you need to look like one of them to go in there.
Yeah. No, I agree with that, George, 100%.
One of the things that just came up before we throw it back to George for some while the IGA is reaching out on shops' behalf, how can independent shops assist on a grassroots level? So we'll talk about that, and also talking points content. So when you get your first email here, when your information has been sent out, you will get a confirmation email that has the talking points. And again, remember, as we said earlier, you're going to get a group of those legislators and those contacts there, along with our official talking point sheet. It's very easy. They're bullets. You don't have to be a legal expert. You also don't have to be a lobbyist to understand it. Just plain human language. So you'll get that in your email. We will also make sure that on the IGA insurance page, IGA.org, go to the industry info. We'll make those talking points available up there later this week. It's just crazy. We've got a lot. It's all hands on deck, obviously, at the association. So we're doing our best. We do not have a staff of like 10,000 people. So with that, we'll say goodbye. George, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Appreciate it as always. And for everybody else out there, IGA.org/advocacy. We'll talk to you soon. Hit us up, DM on whatnot, George.
We'll see you in September.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll come up and see you before then.
Do that. Yeah, you'd love this up here. It's great. Hey, I was going to ask you, is our governor one of the ones that agreed to?
No, your governor's not.
He's too busy watching that Tesla stock plummet.
Yeah, not one of those that could give 2 cents about what we're doing.
I could not resist.
Yeah, no worries. All right, thank you everybody. We'll see you next time. See ya.
So I got into the industry when I was little. My dad always took me to work. We are a windshield replacement company. A lot of people don't realize, but a windshield is a big part of the structural integrity of the vehicle. There's a big problem that we have in our industry, which is the adhesive can separate from the pinch weld, or it could also separate from the glass. So I create a lot of safety videos on TikToks, YouTube, as well as making a lot of new posts on Pinterest. I really like making sure that all my customers are up to date with the knowledge that we possess. We want to make sure we share it with them. One of the things I love about Sika products is that they have so many different variations of chemicals that you can use to properly apply towards the body and the glass to make sure you have a proper installation. They back up everything. They have crash tests. They have safety videos. They have so much information that actually is there for consumers and as well as technicians like ourselves. We have always used Sika products, and now we're using the best product out there, which is Sika Ultimate. It is a 30-minute minimum driver wait time adhesive. The good thing about it, it's primerless to glass. You apply it onto the body or you apply it onto the glass, and you're able to install it right away. You just wait your 30 minutes for it to cure, and then you're able to release the vehicle to the customer. I stay strictly to the Sika products because I know it's been tested and certified. To anyone, to everyone, whether you're a small family business or a large corporation that's international, I would strongly recommend Seek Ultimate to them.
Welcome to the celebration of the Independent Glass Association's 30th anniversary. Established in 1995, the IGA has grown to become the largest premier automotive glass association globally. It represents independent repair and replacement shops, their owners, and employees. The IGA has played a crucial role in supporting the automotive glass industry. Over the years, it has provided invaluable resources and assistance for independent businesses. This support has helped them thrive in a competitive market environment. Throughout its history, the IGA has been committed to promoting high standards and best practices. It has offered training and certification programs to ensure quality service. These initiatives have elevated the professionalism within the industry. Networking and collaboration have been at the heart of the IGA's mission. The association has organized numerous events and conferences, including its Independence Days AutoGlass conference. These gatherings have facilitated knowledge sharing and fostered strong industry relationships. The IGA has also been a strong advocate for legislative and regulatory issues. By representing the interests of its members, it has influenced policies that impact the automotive glass sector in states like Arizona, Florida, and Minnesota, just to name a few. This advocacy has been vital for industry growth. Innovation and adaptation have been key themes for the IGA over the decades. The association has embraced technological advancements to better serve its members. This forward-thinking approach has kept the industry competitive and relevant. As the IGA celebrates this milestone, it reflects on its achievements and looks to the future. The association remains dedicated to supporting its members. It aims to continue driving progress and excellence in the automotive glass industry. Thank you for joining us in celebrating the IGA's 30th anniversary. We look forward to many more years of success and collaboration. Together, we will continue to shape the future of the automotive glass industry.